This is Generation Stadia, giving you that daily dose of everything and anything Stadia related, and today we're going to be discussing the upcoming Stadia Connect. In case you haven't heard the news, Google has officially given us a date for the next Stadia Connect, and that date is July 14th. They haven't given a specific time frame yet, but I'm sure they'll be talking about it again soon. Either way, for now I wanted to have a bit of a group discussion for our expectations for this Stadia Connect. At this time, Google has quite a bit to prove, not just in terms of games for us Stadia users currently, but also a way to attract new people to the platform. Lately, all the talk has been about the PS5 and the upcoming Series X. And personally speaking, I think both of those consoles look great, and I can definitely see why there's so much talk and hype around them. And that's where I want to bring up the first discussion point. What is the goal of this Stadia Connect? Is the primary purpose of this Connect to actually retain customers from hopping over to next generation platforms? Or will this just be treated as another midpoint for another Stadia Connect down the road that'll have a much bigger announcement? Well, if it happens to be the first one, it definitely needs to have a talking point where they discuss Generation 2 Stadia server blades. The fact is that these next generation consoles are quite a step up from their previous counterparts. And if Google really wants to maintain that argument of offering high-end gaming performance with no upfront cost of hardware, Gen 2 needs to be discussed. Better yet, it should be shown playing something. Even if it's not ready for rollout, it definitely needs to be seen to be believed. The point I'm trying to make here is that Google lost a lot of goodwill within the gaming community, but also the Stadia community as a whole. This all comes from the initial Stadia announcement where they talked about 4K 60fps gaming. And I'm sure you know what I'm going to be talking about here. One of the biggest critiques is the lack of 4K 60fps gaming on Stadia. Back then, Google was flaunting that big teraflop number being bigger than the Xbox One and PS4 combined. But in practice, we haven't really seen what it was all about. So far, games are running pretty much on par with an Xbox One X, if not just slightly better. And I think I speak for most when I say Google needs to showcase what Gen 2 is capable of rather than just spitting out numbers, because that just won't work for the general public. Preferably, it also should try and showcase that it can punch above its competitors. After all, we now know what both of those systems seem to be capable of, and Project xCloud will be upgrading to Series X hardware in 2021. At the very least, Stadia needs to be comparable to those two, and honestly, it really should be better than them. The momentum leading into next gen would be huge if that were the case. But more importantly, the point of pointing toward Gen 2 is to reassure us that we will be getting those next gen experiences that can't be done on current generation hardware. But let's say Google decides to hold off and not talk about Gen 2 just yet. It would still be a valid thing to do, especially considering the fact that next generation consoles first year tend to be full of cross-generation titles. More so now than ever, with Microsoft leading the charge of saying cross-generation is here to stay at least for another year or two. And if that's the angle Google wants to take here, what can they possibly do to stand out? This is supposed to be the replacement for E3, the biggest gaming convention of the year, so it has to be still somewhat significant. So what really could make a big splash outside of Gen 2 Stadia server blades? To me, that answer is none other than a first-party title. And if not, it at least has to be a Stadia exclusive that's being built from the ground up to take advantage of the cloud gaming hardware. Something that just can't be done anywhere else. This has been the second major talking point within Google's pitch, that games built on the cloud can do things that no other console could ever do. And I say it's about time we start seeing what that looks like, even if it's a tease for something that won't be out this year. And it has to be a real end product, not just a tech demo, not just an experience, it needs to be a full-on game. Another thing I'd like to see is the discussion of UPLAY Plus coming to Stadia. We do know that it's coming, but it's about time it starts showing up, and hopefully along with it, big key titles like Rainbow Six Siege. I'd say one thing Google Stadia is severely lacking right now is a competitive FPS shooter. It's a super popular genre that really attracts people to a platform. And while Destiny 2 PvP is a thing, it's just not the same as something like Siege, Call of Duty, or even more competitive games like CSGO and Valorant. Another really big deal would be for them to start talking about free-to-play titles and what their plan is to incorporate them onto the platform. Once again, this is a key pillar of the gaming landscape that is missing on Stadia as a whole. Fortnite, Warzone, League of Legends. Those three titles are probably some of the biggest out there, period, and none of them are on Stadia. And it doesn't stop there. I could keep going with titles like Smite, Apex Legends, and Path of Exile. I have little to no doubt that these games would bring a huge amount of attention to Stadia. Almost all of these free-to-play titles are built on the basis of allowing the widest range of devices to access them. That means they run on really weak hardware. And despite that, there are still many users out there who would like to play these games but just can't because their device isn't up to the task. It would be an amazing position for Google to take, offering the free-to-play games on ultra-light settings so you could easily play it no matter what device you own. Obviously, they would also need to discuss how free-to-play will be handled on Stadia. Let's not forget these server blades aren't free to run, so how will they profit off a game that doesn't cost anything up front? I really want to see how they tackle on this subject, but if you have any suggestions, leave them down in the comments section below. But now I just want to take some time to talk about the games themselves. What type of game can we expect to see here? I still think we're quite a way away from getting a first-party title from Google themselves, but I can totally see an exclusive being shown. And if you're wondering what exclusive I'm on about, well, it would have to be the one that they partnered up with to produce, and that's the one they're making with Splash Damage. This is something they announced at the last Stadia Connect, but more interesting than that, it does state in a Q&A session after that event that they would be sharing more with us later this year. Personally, I think that pretty much guarantees the fact that we'll see some of it at this upcoming Connect. Like I said, this would technically be their replacement for any sort of event they had planned for E3, so having a big exclusive title matters here. So let's talk just a bit about them. What type of games are they used to releasing? The first one that comes to mind is Dirty Bomb. It was a free-to-play team-based objective-based shooter. They were also the studio that was in charge of Gears Tactics, that being a turn-based strategy game much like XCOM. They've actually worked quite a bit with Microsoft. I believe they also helped with the Master Chief Collection and Gears 5 and 4. But they haven't had a perfect track record. After all, they're also the ones who made Brink. That said, that game suffered from quite a few development issues, and Dirty Bomb kinda did what it was trying to do, but better. Either way, I do kind of feel that they have a sort of thing for tactical-based team shooters, and I think that's what we should be expecting out of them. They do have quite a range of development experience, so it could be first person, it could be third person, or heck, they could even be making a strategy game, but I doubt it. And don't get me wrong, I do love me some strategy games, but it just isn't something that appeals to a mass audience. That said, it would also be an easy way to really showcase what a cloud-built game can do. From a top-down perspective, I can see them making a massive war unlike anything else we've ever seen in the strategy genre. But I do think at the end of the day, what we're gonna be getting is a team-based shooter, and I'm expecting it to be somewhat hero-based. Dirty Bomb was quite a good game despite it no longer being updated. That style of game really does appeal to the masses, and quite a few people want to bring it back. After all, it's still rated very positive on the Steam store. I could easily see them making a spiritual successor to it, and honestly I think it'd be for the best because it would be a great addition to a Stadia exclusive lineup. They have a ton of experience there, and I would love to see what they can do with a cloud-built game. I should also say it's kind of notable that they did close the servers to Dirty Bomb at the end of 2019, sort of around the same time Stadia launched. But that's just speculation and there's nothing to really go toward that, but hey, I thought it was pretty interesting and wanted to bring it up. Other than that, if they manage to show off another exclusive title made by a different developer, or heck, a first-party title, I'd be pretty shocked honestly. That said, I could totally see them doing some sort of CG trailer, but I think this day and age, most people just want to see gameplay. Either way, that pretty much wraps up everything I wanted to talk about in this video, but I'm interested in hearing what you have to say. What do you think Stadia can do to make a big splash with this next Stadia Connect, and do you think they even need to? After all, these are just my opinions on what I would like to see and expect to see, but you have yours and I want to hear them out. Let me know in the comments section below, I'll definitely be reading all of them. Now, if you enjoyed this video or found it helpful at all, be sure to hit that like button as it really does help the channel out, and if you're wanting more content like this, be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell as well. Today's end of video message is going to be another quick question related to the upcoming Stadia Connect. Do you think we'll see Chromecast Sabrina there, and if so, will it be bundled? This is something I wanted to mention but didn't really want to go too in depth on. That said, I'm curious to hear what you have to say. I personally think it would be a great time to start discussing it if it hasn't been announced already. And if it has by the time this Stadia Connect rolls around, I'm totally expecting a bundle with it. As always, thank you for watching the video. This has been Generation Stadia, giving you that daily dose of everything and anything Stadia related. The Gen S community is over 4,200 strong and growing by the day, and until next time, I'll catch you in the clouds.